Hello and welcome back to the channel, and we're going to start with our CC judging playthroughs. Now, just as a PSA, I'm not going to be judging all of the courses. There's some I've been assigned, some I haven't. And this one is round 2, I think, where I decided to start doing the playthroughs. So, as ever, with all of these, you'll get my honest thoughts of usually first time through the course, things I like, things that I think we could tweak, and advice typically goes quite slowly through the first 3 holes, after which we see the same things kind of happening again, or I've just pointed them out before, so I need to explain a little bit less. So this one's going to be Collick's, and he's said black with high winds, so we've gone for high and southeast. Very wide, I think inspired by Stream Song, which is fun. Having done a course based on that, I know it relatively well, admittedly a few games ago, so hoping for a visual upgrade on what I did. Yeah, first of all, we'll do a quick zoom around the plot. So, other things to bear in mind, I am just one judge, there are multiple, and therefore my views are not going to be representative of all judges. The usual thing with feedback, like take it or leave it, but hopefully I'll try to do a good job of explaining what I think and why. Okay, so and the first thing I would say is just from the air, the like little sand patterns feel a bit odd. Like this is, it's kind of very formalized, and then it is random, but in a very formalized way, if that makes sense. I'd want some blending between these two for the dunes, because it probably doesn't affect us from ground level, but it looks a little bit odd from the air, certainly. And I don't know, I think you'll integrate it all a little bit better. I don't feel like I've seen Streamsong do like the mosaic of sand quite so much. This stuff I think works really well for Streamsong. This stuff less so. It's not that cloudy, but really, really dark when the sun goes in. So hopefully that'll pop back out. What else do we see? Planting around the edge, we're kind of expecting not that much in the middle, like lots of grasses and things that do fill up the space. And then, yeah, trees, perimeter. Like, I think we can take a little bit more care with this sort of stuff. I know it's background and filler, but like clearly we're taking one tree and we're just placing and moving along. Like, you've got no variation in height on those. I know countryside as a theme is a nightmare to work in, but that would be something I'd be tweaking, just like variants of height and little outcroppings of trees and things like that. It works, but I think this is, knowing who the designer is, I think this is a course that's going to go pretty far in this contest, and therefore we're going to nitpick a lot of the stuff where we can. I will say I really like the scale of the dunes that you've gone for. So like totally nailing the Streamsong vibe in terms of the sculpting. I think those work really nicely. I'm looking forward to seeing how they're integrated into the plot. And the grassy coverage up here looks great. I think you've done a good job of kind of mixing in different grasses and not just using the same ones over and over again. Really big tunes. And as for Streamsong, the clubhouses, yeah, it's pretty modern. That makes sense. That's quite cool. Lots of containers. Yeah, lots we like here. Okay. As with Streamsong Blue, I want to say the first tee shot is off a 50-foot high dune, so clear nod there. 12 mile an hour and into. Big green. I like the use of light rough. This over here is a bit of a nightmare in how you transition it. Kind of pick your poison. Like, it's always going to look a little bit wonky. I think this looks great from ground level, so I'm not going to nitpick at all with that. I do think, again, the tree line over here, these four just being really high, and then it just dips down. Like, you've just got 2 levels, really, and they're really high and then medium. Like, I think we can do a bit more with that. Same in here, like the greens over here, we can vary colours and things like that. I think detail planting is probably a little lacking. Also, I've been playing EA for the past couple of days, so my tempo is going to be awful, which makes CC courses perfect ones to come back to. So we missed the super wide open fairway on the wrong side, which means we have to contend with this bunker going in. And I think, if memory serves, so if I were driving up to the choke point, I then have to carry these. Why would I not play down here? Or like that? I guess that makes sense, but I'm trying to work out why this little pot bunker is where it is. I'm good with this bunker being there. I'm good with these three. I don't really understand why the pot is protecting this side rather than this side when this side takes you in over those bunkers. I guess it kind of opens up the back pins a little more, but I don't know. Answers on a postcard. We like the backstop. We like. I mean, the green surrounded by fairway makes a lot of sense. I would probably give yourself a little bit more light rough here. Just feels a bit odd having that tiny little strip. Yeah, my tempo's way off. Oh no. It's okay, it's light rough. And the green's really forgiving, but got some interest. Like, we will see in this contest, there's a lot of people who've gone who just haven't really got CC difficulty. I think that'll be one of the big differentiators between those who finish high and those who finish kind of like just outside top 10 is going to be how well you actually accomplish CC difficulty. I think this is good. Like, yes, there's some slope. You don't want to be above the pin, but there's all sorts of ways to get below the pin down here, even a little feeding slope here. And it's a huge green and a huge fairway, so you have to provide the interest somewhere. I think the grasses look really good up close. Probably want the little yellow ones clumped together a little bit more, or like, I don't know, they render really highly. So now trees on this side look much, much better. Probably want a couple of highlight grasses or things here or here. Like, what I would say about a lot of this planting is it fills the space. It does so pretty effectively, but it's not really wowing me in the way that you'd want for a contest course. It's, goodness sake, completely solid, don't get me wrong, but like if we're looking for really contending at the top end, kind of want a little bit more than that. I like this. Again, I think this sort of planting's great. Can we clear this with a 3-wood? Probably not with my tempo. That's a little better. Oh, that's taking a big hop. I'm enjoying this hole. I mean, the green site's really good. I don't know how much I like this at the end. I feel like you could just end your green here. You don't like this sort of little tongue of green that goes out. I think either you want that to be pinnable space or you don't want it to be green at all. There's no point in having a little extra tongue of green that's false front or false back in this case. Love this little helper slope. And you can kind of get away with this because you do have a bit of fairway, but if you are running people off the green, I'd want to see a bit more fairway for them to funnel down into as a collection area. Just generally it play a lot better. Right, lob wedge. If not quite finding tempo, we're finding something that will work. Okay, jeans at the back look really, really good. We like them. Should have been a little closer than what we were. So can't really be too upset about making the putt. I feel like we could do a bit more with the dunes, like either working sand in. Like the fact that we've got the sand down here means I'd like a little bit more there. And the same with kind of the bunkers transitioning to here. Maybe we could bleed some sand in, make them look a little less man-made. I like the little sand mound here. That's cool. But yeah, so far I think but hole designs wise have been good. Apart from the little pot bunker on one, I didn't totally get, but otherwise I'm enjoying that. Okay. So downwind, obviously we could have a go at this, and I think that'll be a really fun shot. Like just clearing those bunkers and bouncing on. Now, into, we're then having to question where we want to be. This is a really nice green. Because for this pin, and I can tell you've really thought about this one. Because for this pin, if I were to clear this and end up that side, well, suddenly I'm chipping from here towards a shallow tier running away. Like for CC level, that's a tough shot. Where I could play down this side, and suddenly I'm not taking on really either of these two slopes going that way. And you've managed this width really nicely. Now, but then trying to get to this in this wind, drive is a bit too much. Three-wood's a bit too little. I definitely don't want to be three-wood down here. I'm going to try and go with this. I would love you to lower this land just a little bit. It's probably looked fine before you planted it, but the grass is now just blocking our view of the fairway and that bunker, which I think looked really good. Things like a giant oval brush and just encircling the whole of it will make a real big difference there. Okay, wind should slow that down, and I think we get the angle we wanted. Texture choice is really, really good. And have put myself in partial pitch territory, which I don't love. And pitching wedge flop, which means that we hit that slope that we said we were trying not to. Purely because I've left myself the shot I hate the most in the game. Might not be enough. An annoying par. Good hole. Really like that one. Strong start. Okay, we have a fence. Is there a reason for the fence? There is no real reason for the fence. It's just a bugbear. This sightline's golden. And the bunker's really big, but presents like two separate bunkers, which I like. Say that this bunker, like bunker shapes, I think you could probably be doing a little bit more with. Like this one looks great, and I love that you've started bleeding this in a bit more. Like that's the sort of thing with a, if you want to make a course feel like it belongs in its environment, that can really, really help. And this little bunker sits very nicely as well. I think this one we could do a little more. Now, I think I'm just playing 7 iron to fat the green. Like, I'd say this pin is pretty tough. And what I would do would be to remove this mound, particularly for CC level, because you've also got it on like a little light slope. We're protecting par quite a lot of ways here. So it's 190 yards. We lay it to the fat of the green, suddenly we're hitting across a real bendy slope. And we've put that in front, so you can't really even challenge this bunker. You're just forcing people to play out here somewhere. So I just think we need a little... Now, I think the other pins on here probably better. There's lots of pinnable space. That's the one slope that is just impeding us a little bit. I'm now worried about that wind. Well, we're going to find out how that little mound plays. Yeah, I mean, you can't take that on much more, and I'm definitely above the hole with a slippery putt. For CC, we're asking a lot here, but then we're coming off an easy stretch, so I'm not saying it must be always really doable. And of course, that's the one we birdie. I think it's just that how many different obstacles do you want to put in the way of someone getting birdie? Lighting perhaps a little low on here, but that's how the game is working at the moment. Pin again for a par 4. I think you're pushing it a little too close to these slopes. Because put it here, and those two threats still exist. Or even just smooth out either this slope or this slope. I think it's just a bit too close to both of them. I'm okay with it being this close to either. You probably don't want to take away both. Again, this bunker and the way it merges with the natural landscape, much, much better. Probably make the edges a little more ragged, which would help it feeling less man-made. Oh, we found some tempo. But cool that we can open it up by going this way versus the blind approach going the other way. And love this view peeking through the dunes, lighting aside. That's really cool. The framing of like dune here, little rise here, dip, there's the green, in of a bunker. You've got the scaling and like profile just right on these. That even makes sense. I guess the heights of everything. It's framing really nicely. A little slow, but I'm hoping the wind takes it round. So we're playing left of this pin all day long. All the trouble's on the right. I do like that you've got slopes that will funnel a ball closer to it that aren't too penal if you get the wrong side. Like it's not a huge red tier where if you're the wrong side, you're screwed. So that works nicely. There we go. Lovely cross-course views are great as well. Okay, this is Streamsong Blues 7th Inspired, which we love. This bit feels very empty. It's like you kind of forgot to do the grass planting here. Is what it feels like. Oh, it definitely does when we zoom out. Yeah. Again, like the area just in front of your T is golden for like framing because that's where you can put your highlight grasses and just grab the eye a little bit. And good planting here will hide a lot of sins further up. So like if you're putting some really interesting bushes and little flowers and things around here and just down here to frame it, that covers up any sins here because now I'm not focusing on these so much. I'm looking at these. It draws your attention away a little bit. Now the hole itself sits really, really nicely. It is definitely different to Streamsong Blues 7th in terms of, firstly, orientation, where we're playing it from. And the green itself is different. That one has kind of like a Redan sort of kicker. This one doesn't. It's interesting. I mean, I've got a tough wind for this pin. I think we can probably just hit a decent shot there. I think this is a good example of like, you can tell the inspiration, but it's not a rip-off. And the scale again of the dunes in the backdrop's really, really good. I also like the planting here and how you brought in a couple of different types. It doesn't need much, but like just a bit less uniform than what we've had in the past. 3 in a row. Oh, and obviously the curving bridge is lovely. Okay, par 5. I feel like I don't really know what these two are trying to be. So we've got some sunken grass in there. These present like bunkers that I'm going to say this is nice, meaning this as nicely as I can. This is the kind of thing that we see from someone with like not approved courses where they just, I know it's not, where they just dump bunkers down and they don't know how to spline them. Now, it's not because of that, and they're not sculpted. It's not because of that. You're going for something, but I'm not really sure what you're going for. I feel like they would probably want to be mounded up. Otherwise, surely this is sand they just have put fairway over because it's all a sandy site. So like mounded up or tied together or something. But it's not your standard bunkers, and we've not seen anything like that before, and it's not this stuff. Just feels a bit odd as a decision. Oh, there we go. Now, position-wise, what are they protecting? Well, I kind of feel like I want to play out this way anyway to get the best of that slope. Although this shortens the hole, but I'm coming in from this angle, and then this slope is taking me a bit further away and potentially towards that one. So I think I want to go this way anyway. As long as we can creep past them, we're fine. And then suddenly, the one thing that strikes me here is you've got this lovely texture difference and like the grasses, and then suddenly we've got an absolute sea of green here. I feel like you could break that up a little bit for a really long par 5 that's very wide. Like, could some of this be the brown heavy rough? Could you be bringing in like a naturalized area here, like a little dune? Like any of that, I think that's the main thing that's kind of, for lack of a better word, bugging me about this course is like you've got the natural area and we're not really making the most of integrating it in the way that we could. Go right. You won't, but go right. Love that look down over the little lake, drainage lake, whatever you want to call it. That's really nice. So this is fun. I wonder. Problem is, it's probably just going to check and spin if I do that. I'm going to see if I can roll it all the way back off there, because that's a potentially fun shot. There we are. See, that's quite nice. And when you get those sorts of slopes, like that builds in a lot of forgiveness as to how I could play that shot. Gives me a different way to do it. If I'd wanted to do it even better, I'd have probably chipped a 7-iron or something. But, you know, I don't back myself that much. Ah, the lights have gone out. Did wonder whether this would happen. Okay. This has suddenly gotten very dark. And I think you kind of have to make your judgment call between do you want sun or do you want the clouds. By the looks of it, we're in for the darkness for quite some time. The other thing is, on a course with lots of low-level undulations, I just keep it sunny. I think we only really go to the moody lighting where you want to mute the colours. That's not really what you want. You kind of, I guess, have done it for the dynamic lighting, which is fun when it doesn't lead to it looking like this. I really like this green though. I probably would have had either one mound here or a mound here. I think this one I prefer. This one I might have just softened how it rolls out here. Like this side I'd have flattened, just so it feels like you haven't just gone pop, pop, call it a day. That said, but it's a really cool green. I like this one a lot. Oh no. Get lucky. I got about as lucky as it deserved to get. Well, when your luck's in. See, this one works better because you've mounded it up and therefore it makes sense sort of to leave it like that. Oh, I feel like this would be such a pretty par 3 if I could see it. I mean, it is short. I will be honest, I don't really like the pin. I'm happy with this slope, I'm happy with this slope. I'm not really particularly happy with those two and it then being on a light green. I think you're asking again a little too much, even of a very short par 3. We don't need to do that as well. I mean, who saw this run coming after hole 3? Really cool setting again, though. I think each of the par 3s so far has done something a little bit different, which I like. So big carry over the water. I like that you haven't thought, here's water, we have to tuck a green right next to it, which is certainly a trap I can fall into. And a side-on green, which is interesting. Now for this pin, this is on a side-on green where you've done this sort of mound. This is always the trickiest pin because where do you really want to play from? Probably as far left as we can. And that hopefully opens it up. Oh, hello sunlight. I mean, for all that we hate the clouds, the view and the lighting when the sun comes between the clouds is great. We also have some big planting issues back here where it's really evident that we haven't done the sunken trees underneath. And just, to me, that sticks out like quite heavily. And again, if we're looking at getting right to the top of contests, that would be the sort of thing that you want to be picking up on. I'm not saying that this one isn't. I think it's... I've played quite a few of the ones so far, and I can see this one going very far. more just things I would be looking for. And the birdie streak ends. It's a shame. Strength so far have definitely been the par threes, and like, yeah, same thing with these. Like, I don't know, they feel a little out of place. Just like when you could, like, what I would love to be seeing more is like a little dune ridge coming in or something that is like part of this environment and just built up a little bit more and makes it feel like the hole is worked around the existing terrain. Because these just feel like we've got this wide corridor and we've just inexplicably left these three sandy strips. Oh, front to back green we've not had, or rather, one little tier. And I like that you've done it on a short hole. That makes complete sense. Although long hole it can work as well, given you do it right. I don't really see a. I think this one's more about how long do you want to leave yourself in. This was not the answer of how long I wanted to leave myself in. I'm try and hit it a little bit fast. Because, yeah, I didn't have the club. Again, this area feels a little bare. Like, given some of the awesome waterside planting we had down here and over here, even stuff back here, like, leaving this completely bare feels like a little oversight. It's an easy up and down. Definitely CC appropriate. Ooh. Okay, potentially drivable. At least I would go for it if it was a front pin. This pin, nope. I like that we're having to contend with blindness the further left we go. So actually, you could argue that you want to be centre so that you get an idea of where the flag is, but you just about avoid that little mound protruding in. I think I'm happy to go as far left as I can. We'll take the blindness because we have a scout cam, which... Oh, that was a horrible swing. Got away with it, but it was a horrible swing. I always get scared by dead flat putts because you feel like you should make them. I don't feel I've really got that many more comments. Like, oh, this green's huge. It is a very long par 3. This would be one I'm interested to play a couple of times. It feels like it is a little bit big for the amount of slope that's on it. I think it's appropriate to the length of shot you're playing. I think the front pins are going to play really interestingly. I think the back, well, probably for this pin more than the others. Just whacking a long club down there. The thing is, when you make the greens this big, speaking of someone who's made big greens before, you can kind of lose the distinctness of different pin positions, and like it just feels like you're hitting into a sea of green. And you have to be really careful with that. And you want to have some. Oh, we missed the putt. But you want to have some really big features within that green, I would say, to bank balls off. Even if, or because like your effective green size for this is huge because you've surrounded it with fairway, so you don't actually need the green being as big. I think this is what's causing me the issues really. And you got some cool landforms. Like either use the ones on the side as the really big features and have the green size be a little bit smaller. You probably could have cut it about here. Because I think these two pins are going to be really interesting. And then I'm assuming we've got one foot at the back here. Or you keep the green size really big, but you give less around it, which would look a bit weird. That said, your par 3s as a set have been really strong. and that's a good complement to the others. Okay, par 4. Again, might be cool to see some of the integration of this stuff a little bit more. I like this green. This green has lots of good going on. I want to say part of the issue is I'm not sure you've come to a decision as to what you're doing with the light rough. It completely makes sense to surround the fairways in light rough and have that extra buffer. But the problem is then, where do you have light rough? Where do you have heavy rough? Contrast. And it can just all look very green, which it does in places on this course. These are minor nitpicks. You'll notice I'm not really critiquing playability very much at all. Playability is great. Ooh, we've got a long approach. Mishit tee shot is not a good idea on this one. Oh, and mishit an approach. Let's go find the first bunker of the day. And leave ourselves an awful shot. No, pretty happy with that. Yeah, lots about this hole I like. Go dead straight, can't we? Good pass save from where we are. Ooh. Interested as to what those trees' role is, as to whether we have to play way over here and therefore length. It's already a long hole. Okay, so if you hit a good drive, you're way past the trees. Okay. If you hugged the right hand side, you're kind of blocked out. I'm not against, just interesting. This might go over. I don't need all of this. Oh no, I needed more than that. Well, got unlucky. Again, the bunker feels a little. This bunker feels very clunky because you've got the green going completely one way and the bunker going completely the other, and they don't really integrate that well together, I would argue. I think a little cluster of 3 bunkers or something, and then maybe another one over here that draws like a diagonal line or something like that would work better and accomplish the same thing. I get that we're kind of, it's like an extended lion's mouth sort of thing. Like if you're down here, you're pitching over it for these pins, vice versa. The idea is solid. I just think aesthetically it's not quite what we want it to be. Oh yeah, you're pitching wedge flop again. So good at those. That was significantly better than the last time. Oh, and that's our fence on a tee. Okay, so we're back to the 3rd and 4th right there. Nice. Oh, I see the next hole. That's a good putt. Again, that like the bunkering by 4 is really, really good. I think that's where you kind of nailed some of the shapes. Since then, it's been a little hit and miss. Love the framing on this one, and this like incorporation of, we'll leave the beerets aside for the moment. Incorporation of the natural dunes and things, really cool, and like frames this hole beautifully. And this is a little more of what I'd have liked to have seen you bring into other holes. Additionally, you've got that little framing planting in front and here. Because of all of this stuff, I'm not really looking at the things over here and worrying that that might be barren. It's not, or like the lack of grasses much down here, like because other stuff grabs your eye. Okay, Beerets. This is the red course's 16th of sorts. I don't know the specifics of that, but like it's a giant Beerets. Yeah, this is a closer rendition than your 7th on the blue. And it's gone dark again. Come on, wind, push me in. And please don't stick there. Oh. Well, Just get it to the red slope and let that do the rest. Whee! Yep, and again, like planting down here feels much more cohesive. I'd like probably a little more detail. You can tell that this is just like the 1 or 2 trees, like, but that might be a time issue. I think this was a late publish, so potentially that. Okay, finishing 3, 4, 5, which is always fun. Slightly blinding lighting on this one. Ooh, bunkers here. Again, they blend in with the environment, and that's a real success, and looks much, much better as a result. That little pot on the end is slightly irritating. Okay, so we're going 500-yard par 4, which is fine, because frankly, I'm still going to be hitting a short iron in. However, into wind, that pin is not going to earn you many friends on CC. Now, I get that this slope is going to kick us towards, but if you look at that, like, if you are above this pin, you are not stopping it anywhere near close. And I just think that one could use a little bit more love. And if I go way out this way, I'm suddenly having to cope with this and this more, and that's not going to funnel me quite towards in the way that I would like. So I want to be down this side. Love the whole design. Also love the width and the grasses. They present really nicely here. Perfect bounce as well. Love that. Yeah, these 3 bunkers have loads of potential. I think the shapes are just not really doing you many favours. The positioning's great, but imagine if you brought out some of this planting in front, and like the way that you did in front of the 16th green, like little bits of planting there would just make this sing. It's so close. Yeah, see, like 500-yard par 4, and I've got a 9 iron in. Ludicrous game. And we've wisely stayed below the hole, so we don't have to avoid that. Dead below the hole. Easy birdie. Okay, par 5 for double figures. Let's do this. After a quad par start. Was it 3? I can't remember. No, I birdied 4, didn't I? Love this green. I like that. This is something I kind of feel I wish you'd done maybe a little bit more, is varied the green sizes. Like, it would have been really cool to have a tiny green somewhere, because this is quite small. And like, a couple of them have gotten away from you in the big sense. And this one feels really nice and focused. And like, when you get a green like this slope can also have an effect on this pin, because that can kick you down. Well, less of an effect on this pin, but like this slope has an effect on this pin, and potentially the one up here. Whereas on a huge green, it only really affects that one pin. So it adds a bit more cohesion. Framing off this tee is great. Again, probably would like a little bit more detail stuff down here. But we understand. This bunker is just here. And you've got the natural area, like bring that in. You've also got a little dip to that. Like, that could be a really cool hazard if you wanted it. Oh, how have we missed this fairway? Not even found this. Not even found the heavy rough. The bunker. Okay. So I definitely do not want to be ending up anywhere over here. I've got a sort of grotesque smiley face scream bunker. Fun. And yet that's really my easiest place to lay up. We're just going to get it out of there. I don't think it's going to travel all that far. Pick left would be nice. Yeah. I have an awful angle purely by my dreadful tee shot. And now I've got to hit a partial pitch, which I'm rubbish at. Or a pitching wedge shot. That might be good. But grabs. That's it. That little mound just helped. I think if you hit the fairway, this is a really fun approach shot. I hit a dreadful tee shot. Yeah, like planting hit, you know, you've heard this enough. Like, it's fine. I think for winning a contest, you want to be pushing a little bit more. Oh, we do get to -10. I mean, so I'm aware I've nitpicked a lot, and partly that's the job of judging, but also because I know Colic asked for the Good to Great series a while back, and like we've talked a couple of times, and I know he wants as much as he can possibly have. We're going to give you everything you got. I know you were tight for time with this one, I think, by the end, having just read the judging notes. Things I loved about it, like the golf's fun. That's a big part of it, and like you have captured lots of the stream song vibe. Certainly, the plot design is really strong. I think there's a ton of holes. Like one thing I always look for when I'm coming off is how many of those holes could I remember. First hole, I remember teeing off the top of the dune. Definitely remember that. Second one, I remember that green site. Third one, remember the decision off the tee. And it's not just like, do you remember the environment? It's, do you remember what that hole made you do? It's like that for me is what a memorable course is about. Fourth hole, I remember the tee shot that I hit more, but I also remember really loving the green and the framing. Fifth hole, don't recall. Sixth hole was the stream song 7. Probably would recall the fifth hole if I gave it a bit more thought. 7, not sure. 8, not sure off the top of my head. 9, I do recall, was the little short par 3 down the hill. And obviously, some of these, like, it's easier to remember ones the closer to the round, like in the middle, it's harder to remember them all. I remember we had one with kind of sideways green, we had one with front back green with the tier on it. Like, there's lots of distinct features I remember. There were occasionally holes that I think got away from you in width and length. I will say also, your back 9 par 3s are both quite long, particularly with 16 and how it played. I hit quite. What did I hit? I'm going to say 6 iron, but I had a middle pin. I feel like you played with some waypoint stuff on 16, would be my guess. Because that and 13 are both pretty long par 3s. So I might have looked for, and especially when you look at 4 being 200 odd yards, I'd probably look for one of those par 3s to be in the like 160 range, particularly for CC. We don't need to test wood shots that much, especially also when you then consider that that's a long par 5, that's a long par 3, that's a long par 3, that's a long par 4. Like this stretch of holes for, and that's a long par 4. This stretch of holes for CC is probably quite challenging. You want to break that up a little bit in terms of routing. Appreciate that you've got those 2 shorter ones, but like that would be one where I'd be looking at maybe softening one of those holes a little bit more. Not that I really noticed it whilst playing, I would say, but you'll notice my scores. Like that's where the pars started kicking in again. Environment we've covered in depth. What else? I don't know. I had a really good sense of place. It's enjoyable. There's loads I remember. The technical work is pretty well done. I didn't love the little bunker scraps in the fairway. I think just really tying in with the native area the more you can, the better, and like making the course feel like it's in harmony with its surroundings rather than just. I guess what I'd say is this course felt like it was superimposed on a terrain that existed because you got the sculpting absolutely right, but you just deleted everything that was in its way rather than kind of worked it into it. And I think you'll get something a lot more cohesive when you do that. But I fully expect this one to be right up the top near the end. Really strong course, really enjoyed it. Ton of fun, great work. So yeah, hopefully that was useful for both Oleg and anyone else watching this. We'll do a couple more as they come through. See you soon.